As you go around and teach, especially to young people and speak to them, how do you present the entire Mengele story? How do you deal with the concept of evil as you try to convey that to the next generation, which is again another generation removed from the events?
So what I try to do in the book is to kind of separate Mengele from the persona that many people understood about him. That is, Mengele, because of his notoriety and because of certain aspects of his activities and because of the passion of the subjects of his experiments and their focus on him, he kind of took on a symbolic status. He became, for many, symbolic of the Holocaust itself, and also symbolic in a way of the failure of justice at the end of the war. Became so much larger than life in a sense that many people kind of appropriated him into their own stories about their own experience during the Holocaust. There are countless examples of people who claim to have met Mengele who could not possibly have done so because they weren't there when Mengele was there, or because they described him in ways that were not consistent with Mengele himself. So I tried to kind of deconstruct the real person from the imagined person, who became also a figure of some prominence in popular culture. You know, you just think about the Boys from Brazil or the Marathon Man, where Mengel's character is kind of outsized. There was a kind of what I describe as iconification of him, that he kind of rose out of himself and became an icon for evil and an icon for science gone mad, that kind of thing. So in doing that, I tried to stick and hew very, very closely to the facts that I could establish. And I concluded that far from being the kind of grotesque monster that people assumed him to be and fantasized about him being, that in some ways the truth was a bit more unsettling, because it's easier in some ways to conclude that someone's a monster. It kind of distances themselves from you and allows you to pile on them everything that you want. And it's far easier to consider someone a monster than to consider the monstrous things that normal people can do, and that enshrined institutions like medicine and science can promote. And so I try to, if there's a kind of lesson to be learned from Mengele's story, it is that you need to watch out for institutions, and especially in the case of science, for the kind of boundaryless science that Mengele reveled in at Auschwitz, that his passion and ambition drove him to do things beyond what would be considered normal, appropriate, or proper in any system. And if you think about today, where science is infinitely more powerful in terms of genetics than it was at Mengele's time, with CRISPR technology, you imagine what Mengele would have done if he could have mastered CRISPR technology, or what the Nazis could have done. A technology that doesn't require a Nobel Prize or $1 billion. You can do it modestly through mail order. That the requirement for structures that can tame the ambition of scientists and can bring them into a standard of that's accepted and policed by society. And I think that's very important.